TJ, which one of these you want first?
Well, religion. Well, we'll go with, I think religion. Yep, that's the one I want.
All right.
Can't wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're having a huge issue in this country where white nationalism has married itself to Christian evangelicalism. And I'm getting ready to show you a clip of a pastor who is using religion as propaganda to get people to believe in the bull job Trump is doing. And then the very next clip, you will see a student who has nothing to do with this pastor that's not even of the American descent has come here and bought into this bull job. Take a look at this, and then me and TJ will get back to you.
Look, I'm sorry your 401k's gone down. But quit whining. It's not about you. It's about the young kids in here and the grandkids and the kids that haven't been born yet. The ones we've mutilated. Yeah, perfect timing. And if you've made it out of your mother's womb without being ripped apart like you are in California and flushed into the sewer systems of the state, but of course we harvest your organs. We make Nazi Germany look like Girl Scouts. If you manage to make it out of the womb the minute you're born, you now have unbelievable debt leveled on you while we've bought junk from China because it's good in our lifetime. And now we get a little pinch to make it right and reset it for their generations, and we're upset. If you want to be great in the kingdom of God, you are called to be a servant. Suck it up. A little bit of suffering in your portfolio.
I voted for Trump.
Okay, and what was the number one reason for voting for Trump?
Personally, it doesn't matter who would be the person who is running for, as long as they're in the more conservative side, on the right side, because I lean more towards the Republican side, and it just aligns with my beliefs. And just personally, if it would have been anybody else, I would have still voted for the Republican side of the party, and it just aligns more with my religion and my personal beliefs. And personally, for the Democrat side, I just don't, personally agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel like at all bothered as a Christian that Trump is a convicted rapist?
I feel like I do personally, because, it's not what a person should do and a person that should be as like someone leading our country. But, what happened, and I really can't do anything about it. And I just wouldn't vote for the Democratic Party either way.
Lord have mercy. I'm going to have to say a word that the young people say, TJ. The fuck? TJ, please make this make sense for me. I'll give you the floor first, brother. God.
No problem. So I will try my best to make it make sense. I can only do so much, But with the first clip of the preacher talking about everyone needs to suck it up and stop complaining about their 401ks. This is bigger than you. This is too bad. This has been an interesting couple of weeks with the stock market continuing to, trend down as it has since Trump has announced these tariffs and everything. And the arguments from the right have become increasingly absurd to the point where it's unrecognizable from anything they would have said last year or any other time, honestly, where the stock market's telling me, but they can't say that Trump is doing anything wrong. That's absolutely anathema. However, it's the religious, the white conservative evangelicals have always been Trump's core support. They love who Donald Trump is because Donald Trump is who they are. They love it. He is a racist bully that displays all of the excesses and greed and character flaws of the United States of America. And I'm not a Christian. I was part of the evangelical crowd many, many years ago, but from experience, I can say that it hardly resembles a religion anymore, or a Christianity anymore. That what conservative white evangelicalism is a civic religion that worships conservative Christian America and capitalism. And as long as Trump is their avatar, they will defend it no matter what. I also find it interesting that he says, hey, your 401k is tanking, don't worry about it. Because isn't that Republicans' number one thing they go to saying, well, we don't need Social Security because you have your 401ks. It sucks for you if you retire when the stock market crashes, but hey, I got to roll the dice. What are you going to do? And to the second clip, when he was talking to the young lady, I wrote down the conservative values and beliefs and religion. That was the reason that she said that she voted for Trump. Honestly, that answer she gave, surprisingly honest. I gotta say, it really is. Because if you ask people why they vote for Trump, usually they will point to nonsense. They will say, I like his plan for the economy. No, you don't. You don't know what it is. You can't explain it. Right. I really like, what he stands for. Or they'll say something about how they want to keep borders safe without going into detail about immigrants and all. But she was saying that this is a religious thing. And if she grew up in the religious cult that a lot of Americans do, you are taught from birth, Democrats bad. If that's all you need to know, you vote for the Republican no matter what. I was, however, surprised that she didn't say the rape adjudication was fake news. That kind of surprised me, that she seemed to be collected enough in reality to say, well, okay, well, yeah, that happened, but I'm going to look past it. Because that's not what most conservatives would do. They say, oh, well, there was a liberal judge and she had out to get him and those convictions were nonsense. So refreshing honesty. I don't know if she's going to, become a rational person after that, but she was honest about her thoughts. She didn't bother trying to defend it with any esoteric strategy,
Oh, Lord. I'll tackle Dora the Explorer first. It bothers me when it bothers me, anyone does it, but someone who's a marginalized group.
Yeah.
That all they know to do is say what they think the party stands for and not watch what the party is doing. And this girl, in the same breath, says she's about religion, but you voted for a man who is a convicted rapist. If I was the guy interviewing her, I would say to her, ma'am, if someone raped your mother, would you vote for them the president, whether they stand for religion or not? What do you think she would have said, TJ?
She would probably say no. And it goes in line with all the Trump supporters. Like you've noticed, like these last couple of weeks when people say, my job was cut at the Department of Education or Defense, and I voted for Trump. I knew he was going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, but I never thought he'd come after me. I thought he'd go after trans people and immigrants. I didn't know he would be coming after government workers. But this is why I hold no sympathy, or as little sympathy as I can possibly muster for these folks. I've heard a lot of people say we need to bring these people back with open arms because we need their support. We need every vote we can get. True, we do. And I would rather, but that's not going to happen because they didn't change their mind because they reversed their paradigm of logic or morality or anything like that. They only changed their mind because something bad happened to them. Like their idea of morality doesn't extend past them, maybe their family, but that's it. So that person is not an ally. That person is just someone who the enemy of our enemy is not necessarily our friend.
Right. That person is a convenient hypocrite.
Yes.
And
yes.
So often we always talk about Republicans don't change stripes until something affects their Republican politicians don't change stripes until something affects their friends and their families. And I just wonder how long this will last with Trump breaking the back of these people that thought that he wouldn't come for them. How long will this last? I've seen a lot who said that they would turn ship, but I've also seen a lot who have Stockholm syndrome, TJ, and they're going to stick right there and keep getting beat down. And I've even heard one Republican say this, and they said they don't give a damn. They said, as long as those immigrants, those black folks, and those gays are suffering, I don't care what Trump does. Think about that. Think about that.
Yeah, it's spite-based politics. I tried saying this all last year, actually, honestly, 4 years when they've been ramping up to this and everything, that if you go, well, you can't go anymore, but if you went to a Trump rally and you saw what he said and what the people said, very little of it was projecting a vision for the future that, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. It's going to lead to this. That made any sense. What you did hear a lot of was F your feelings, cry more.
Right.
Yeah, still your president. The entire thing was based on hurting other people, and which is cathartic. for a lot of folks. It's like, well,
Right.
it's essentially political nihilism. I think a lot of these folks have given up on the idea that politics can possibly lead to anything good for them. And they will tell you that. They like saying, well, all politicians are bad, but they love voting for Republicans. I think in a sense, they kind of do believe that. They think that all politicians may not have their best interest in heart. However, this one particular group of politicians will make life worse for people I hold in ill regard. And those folks are going to keep voting Republican or not vote at all. I don't see any scenario in which a sizable percentage of these folks say, oh, actually, I want universal health care now. I think this is great. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to the pastor, and then I'll get us to one of the subjects you might have brought to us. The only thing I can say about the pastor and most churches and religions in his ilk, all of them are fucking con men, ladies and gentlemen. All of them. And who's the ultimate con? The Don, Trump. And they know it. And they love it. One thing that I watch a lot of on TV is American Greed. And it's all about white collar crime. And these con guys have the same modus operandi. They want to basically use affinity. A church is a form of affinity, or country club, a form of affinity, and get you to invest in something that they know is a damn Ponzi scheme. And now I'm not saying all religions and all churches are doing this, but the most of them in this guy's church flying around in jets and driving 6 different Mercedes when you don't want to feed the poor of your church, that is not what Jesus would have had done, period.
Oh, yeah, that's yeah. So Lamont and I are not religious. We're not. So I know a lot of folks probably are and everything. And I try to, show as much, ironically, grace as I possibly can, because I understand that people grew up religious. Our society, the Republicans aren't wrong when they say we have a basically Christian culture. That's true. It is. It's like we have religious holidays on our calendar. Easter's coming up or tomorrow. Most people, whether they go to church or not, are going to be dyeing eggs and everything. Half the people have names that come right out of the Bible: Peter, Andrew, James, John, Thomas, Mary, Elizabeth, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel. And we are saturated with religious context and culture and everything. So I don't fault folks for growing up in this culture and being Christian. However, if you're going to give money to like massive mega churches, especially, those I don't understand. Even as a Christian, that wouldn't have made sense to me. I think it was Ted Haggard. I think he got on TV. Oh, Creflo Dollar. It was Creflo Dollar. Oh. And Creflo Dollar. Do you remember years ago when he said that he needed to raise money to buy a private jet? I don't know how that works on anyone. I really don't. Like, even as a Christian, I said, that's insane. Why would a pastor need a private jet? Or why would God need one? That's who the money's supposed to be going to, right? So if you want to believe that, Jesus is part of a triune deity who spoke reality into existence, fine, whatever. But don't waste your money like that. It does much better feeding your family than it does going to some flashy preacher.
And ladies and gentlemen, the biggest thing I want you to take away from religion and politics, you need to separate them. TJ made a point. I try to game it like this. We're supposed to be free to practice whatever religion we want, as long as it doesn't harm your neighbor. And the issue with that is the home team religion is Christianity. So if this was a basketball game, you got 2 teams coming together under one roof, you have a home team. The home team is Christianity. Mm-hmm. Even though the Constitution says you're free to practice whatever you want, it just happens the home team religion is Christianity. And if you're going to practice it, fine. But don't let the seduction of that religion trickle down into other people and try to govern their lives based on how you practice your religion. That's when you're getting into problems.
Yeah, and it's especially dangerous because, and so there's a lot of reverence toward the founding fathers that's unearned, and and people get this incorrect. We have this unfortunate habit. I think this isn't limited to the United States, but I think it's just how people are, that we like to slot human beings into good person, bad person boxes. That's a good person. That's a bad person. And it's really tricky when you're evaluating history, because you pull out someone who's labeled good person. So say Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's labeled good person, honest Abe, won the Civil War, Emancipation Proclamation, good guy all around. And then when you mention, hey, Abraham Lincoln, he also executed dozens of Native Americans, like the largest mass murder of Native Americans in American history. That's a fact. It happened. People get upset when you bring it up because, hey, Abe Lincoln's a good person. You can't do that. Say, no, that's not how you look at history. History, there are no good or bad people. There are just people. They have actions that are good and actions that are bad, and we learn from them. That's what we have to do. And with the founders, people put them in the good person category. So whenever you criticize them or say they did something good, like say the separation of church and state, obviously, that's one of the best things the founders did. It was the first constitution in the world that actually had separation of church and state in there. And what the reason that's so important, because people ask, why does that even matter, is really
people.
Well,
are you serious?
No, they do, because what the
have they not watched Game of Thrones?
Well, I know, right? Yeah. So what they'll say is, okay, you have your set of beliefs, right? And you're going to argue to get those passed into law. I have my set of beliefs. They happen to be religious, and I'm trying to get those passed into law. Why does it matter if it's religious or not? And the answer is that, let's say Lamont and I have some sort of moral, philosophical, or legal disagreement or whatever. And Lamont comes up and he says, hey, I think this should be a law, because I've evaluated this data. Here's the evidence. This is the goal we're trying to get to. I think this is going to work. And I say, I disagree. God told me this is a good idea. Now, all of a sudden, my idea has a lot more weight now, doesn't it? Because if it's just two human beings arguing, then we can talk about data. Then we can talk about, a discourse between ourselves. But once we bring a third party in who is a supernatural, all-powerful being, there's nothing he can say that will change my mind. Nothing at all. What is he going to say that's going to match what God says? Nothing. There's nowhere to go. So it stalls and it halts any sort of progress of solving any problems, because people come in with extra dimensional preconceived notions from a superior being. That's why it's important. We have to solve things on a secular level, otherwise we get nowhere.
Right. And I could go on with this with you all day.
That's great.
I'll say it like this. You don't even have to go as far as saying, my God. I always tell people the one thing people to bring up in an argument that you're not supposed to argue against, and when I do argue against it, I'm deemed bad, is religion, period. When I'm whipping somebody in a debate, they'll all of a sudden will say, well, my faith tells me this. And I'll look at them like, I don't give a damn what your faith says.
Don't care. Irrelevant.
Your faith does not rule my house. Okay, and then I give them this. This is the greatest example I give them. Do you know that we had two large buildings in New York, into which some people's faith said, drive two big ass airplanes into those buildings? What you got to say about that? How do you feel about your faith now?
Well, it's easy, Lamont. That was the wrong faith. That was the problem. It was the wrong. That's the answer they give. That's literally the answer they give. Yeah.
Sure, it was the wrong faith for you.
Exactly.
But it was not the wrong faith for them.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, when we need to come to an agreement, should you ride an airplane into a building or not, we have to come to an agreement. And you do that secularly by putting something on document and saying law.
Yes, yeah. There is no mechanism anywhere to determine which religious faith is correct. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen at all. So don't even try.